me a while to really want to do films. I felt like, oh, that's you know, like really big, you know, and TV I can just figure it out, you know, and film seems like a much more massive job. And you know, then when I finally started doing them, then you find out, oh, you've got so many more people on your, you know, you have orchestrators that can say, oh, by the way, Mark, you know, just so you know, that I'm going to change your flute line to a piccolo line when it gets in that octave, because flutes don't really play up there. Just your sampled flute can do it. You know? So, you know, you have a lot of people that, you have a support cast, so it becomes easier in a way.
How did you transition into film? Was Wes one of the first people that you started to work for?
I did a bunch of films before I worked with Wes, but I got a call from somebody at Sony, and they said, we have this guy, he's an interesting filmmaker, he's freaking everybody out, and he'll only talk to one person for a composer. And so they asked me to come screen his film, and I went to a screening where I think I saw a record number of people walk out, and it was on Bottle Rocket. It was like they'd you know, like done a focus group with high school kids, and like 90 kids walked out, and they were writing things like, how come we didn't get to see her tits and stuff like that, you know, on the cards, you know, they were like jerks, you know. But you know, I watched this film and I thought, even with his, you know, his temp music, I thought this guy has an interesting vision and an interesting take on our culture. And so we met. He was extremely articulate for a guy who was just making his first film, and he was under a lot of pressure. Jim Brooks, the guy who does Simpsons, he saw a little short version, and it was like a little test for Bottle Rocket. And he said, yeah, let's do a film. James saw the first rough cut, and he went to us, he goes, well, why does it look like that? I mean, we gave you that money, and it looks exactly like your film you made at school. And he goes, what did you think it would look like? And so he came over, and he was trying to help then at that point, you know, in the post. And so he'd come with West over to my house, where I had a bedroom that I'd turned into a studio at the time. And he'd listen to us talk about music, and he'd try to offer advice. And every time he came over, which was 3 different times while we were recording, he would then go back to his office and tell his secretary to once again send me a VHS tape of the movie Big with Tom Hanks and I don't know, is it Dave Grusin? Somebody like that, some jazzy guy, a light, upbeat, fizzy, jazzy guy had scored it, and he wanted me to, I don't remember who it was that scored it. And I asked him, I said, what do I do with this stuff? And he goes, don't worry, I'll take care of Brooks. So we just pushed forward and did what we did. And Wes was interesting in that he had a very particular palette where he didn't like bass sounds, he didn't like brass, he didn't like low sounds except for an acoustic bass. It was the only low-sounding instrument he liked. And I watched every movie. I watched his palette broaden, so where he started letting more instruments be played on his films. He's like, I've worked with a lot of directors. Some of them you wouldn't really attach the word artist to their name. You know, some of them are, you know, like there's been this whole thing in Hollywood where once they wanted to find people that they could control, they started pulling directors out of the commercial world and things like that. You know, people that were used to just doing whatever the client told them to do. And they're easier to handle. And then I've worked with a bunch of artists too. I've worked with people that truly made art, and I would put him in that category for sure.